what we're fighting over who's going to say is Jane was actually my high school biology teacher. And yeah, and so funny thing, I did Jane did community outreach projects way back then even. And I kind of locked into that. I was one of those kids who was like, yes, okay, yes, what are we doing? I really want to be a part of this so much that I don't know how many independent studies I ended up doing with Jane Disney in the following years, but at least 2 that I can think of. But that type of teaching and that kind of student experience that I had was actually one of the reasons why I became a science teacher. And so that was the type of teacher I wanted to be. And so when this project came up and I had the opportunity to be a part of it, I was like, yes, sure. And then I also wanted to take advantage of it the best I could because this was a really great opportunity for me and my students. So let's see. When I was developing the unit, so the arsenic well water testing is just a small part of what the project is all about in developing the curriculum. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure that I created this community-based, multidimensional unit for my 7th graders. I wanted everything. I wanted science, math, reading, data analysis, art, public speaking. I wanted to get it all in there. And I think we got a lot of it at least. So when we started the project, the Flint, Michigan crisis was going on. President Obama had just declared a state of emergency 2 months before we started. So this was a real launching point for my project. What I did, we had a student leveled, I can't, if I have the resource, but article that I gave to my students, and they were just outraged that this was actually a thing that was going on in our country. Like, oh my God, what do you mean they can't drink the water? And so that was a great, like, kind of buy-in for them, like, this is actually a thing. And also I did some excerpts from the Time magazine, but I did have an article that was more, 11, 12-year-old base. So when I started off the unit by doing a survey to kind of get an idea of what experience the students had had prior to this project. And it was all over the map, even as knowing about well water, if they had a well, which they all do because it's Surrey and they don't have public water. But they didn't really have a good understanding of watersheds and well water. So before I jump into the watershed part, that's what I decided to do for my part of the unit. I decided to do a project on water testing on Patten Stream, which is right in the backyard of Surrey Elementary School. So we could walk down there. So what I used this textbook. It's not really a textbook, but as a resource like a textbook. Watersheds, it's by Dobson and Beck. And I just used bits and pieces of it. I didn't want this project to be that we were reading from the textbook, but they needed something that was some background information. So they wrote about watersheds, water pollution, and the characteristics and stream chemistry. And then I had them break off into groups, and they all presented on the different cycles. So like I said, we decided to do water quality testing on Patten Stream. Patten Stream, like I said, is right in the backyard of Surrey. We could walk right back there. There's been a lot going on Patten Stream. It drains right into Morgan Bay. They had just made the Alewives ladder right at the base, so there had been a lot going on there anyway. It was kind of an interesting site to take a look at. And so I picked 5 sites, and broke up into groups, and I had a really small class. There's 14 kids. And then we did some really detailed site observations. And at one of the site number 1, they found this, I don't know if you guys remember, but they found this white pipe, and it had this like black sludge coming out of it. And I mean, not that it was great that it happened, but you actually couldn't have had a better launch for a water quality project than, and I didn't see it when I went and did the, pick the sites, but they saw it and they were like, what is this? What is coming out? And they were instant buy-in to this water quality project. We asked around, what is this pipe? Where's it coming from? And the maintenance felt like, I think it's from an old leach field. So then it was like, oh my gosh, look, this is draining into the stream. It was a big deal. So I emailed Anna. I was like, okay, can we test this or figure out what's going on here? It's not in the water. It's kind of above. It's really awkwardly placed. And being a partner with a biolab was so great because they're like, sure, yeah, we'll bring you some samples or bags and we'll try to do it, sure. And really, it wasn't anything. There was nothing. It wasn't anything but, were those kids bought into the next 6 weeks for all this water quality testing that we were going to be doing. So I really kind of lucked out that there was this mystery pipe. But anyway, so I should also add that I am no longer at the school that I worked at the time, and I don't have the same email, and I didn't have any access to my computer. So I had to steal from my case study and try to make this presentation not just have some pictures. So this is Jane and Duncan when they came and visited my class. It is kind of not at all related to that slide, but I needed a picture for the slide. So anyway, so the 7 sites, they picked 7 sites, and we tested for temperature, pH, phosphates, nitrates, and dissolved oxygen. We did this over a span of 6 weeks. We kind of got to the end of the school year crunch, which I think every teacher knows that feeling. And if I had returned to the school the following year, I think this would have been something that continued on. But it was just a short 6 weeks. Like I said, I wanted to kind of just grab the kids and have this water quality project sort of fall over everything. And the ELA teacher agreed to do a book group with them. And then she, is unagreed a word? She took that back because she had the end of the year crunch. And I said, okay, well, we'll read it in science class. So I picked this book, Flush by Carl Hyacin. It's about a casino boat that is dumping sewage into the Florida coast, and these kids find out about it and they want to take action about it. So this is obviously a very elementary level book, but I liked the idea of bringing that in, and I don't know at high school level if you have that same capacity to do that, but being in such a small school, we were able to do that. So we did book groups in science as well, and so that was kind of my way of bringing the ELA piece in there and reading. So looking at the data from Patten stream, all of our results were within normal range for the 6 weeks that we did it, but it was, we had the best time getting out there and collecting the data. Our data from the arsenic came back kind of towards the end of our water quality testing, and those were not within normal range. We had some really high samples of arsenic in our sample set, and the kids were immediately taken to, okay, we have to let people know, this is our responsibility to let the community know. And all along there had been that component of the community forum that was coming down, but getting the results back and realizing that this was kind of a big deal really motivated them to want to make sure that they were presenting a project that people would listen to, I guess. So we got towards the end of the project and the end of the school year and started to prepare for the community forum. They had to look and figure out what was the most relevant information for them to share and prepare to speak for a large audience. We didn't really know how many people were going to come out for the community forum. I think we provided food. I'm not sure, but I remember that was like, we should have food, and then maybe more people will come. But we had a big turnout at the community forum, not just parents or grandparents, but we had quite a bit of people. So on top of this project here, they did trifold posters and handouts of different topics. And so they were able to pick, and interestingly, one of them is arsenic in animals. They're talking about the dogs. Group of my kids were like so fascinated with, well, what about the animals? What about, so we had arsenic in general, an overview of what arsenic is, remediation options, arsenic in animals, side effects of the high arsenic, and then one group focused on sharing the results that we had. So this is a community forum, and if I had access to my pictures, I would have had a picture of somebody other than Jane speaking, like one of my students, but this was from the arsenic website. Everything, all my pictures had to be like stolen from wherever I could find them. So when people came in, all their art was displayed. So the art teacher agreed to do a unit on water quality, water-themed art. This one was one of them, but I feel so terrible because I had so many pictures. There were like water-themed masks and jewelry. It was just really pretty amazing. So as they walked in, those were displayed. And then along the outside of the gym were all of their projects that they stood by and answered questions for. A couple of my students presented in front of the whole group. And so that was kind of something, I don't know, as an 11 or 12-year-old, was kind of a big deal to get up in front of. I mean, it's a big enough deal for me to get up in front of, I don't know, however many are here, and I'm an adult, but a 12-year-old to get up in front of, 3-4 times as many people are here. So it took a lot for them to get prepared for the community forum, but they wanted to. They really wanted to make sure that they had this high quality posters and projects so that people listened to what they had to say. They didn't want to just throw something together, and they knew that they wanted it to be high quality. So my student takeaways, they learned about researching a topic. They learned proper protocols and procedures for testing water. They learned how to analyze data. They looked for trends, writing reports. In there also in that project, there was some report writing. And then creating presentations for the public. But the biggest takeaway that I think my kids had is that they became community advocates. Then they really embraced it. It was a big deal that they had this information that they wanted to share out to the public. So I feel like that was their biggest takeaway. And when I reached out to a parent a couple weeks ago when I got asked to do this and said, oh my gosh, I don't have anything. Do you have any pictures? And she goes, no, but let me ask. And oh my gosh, he has the poster in his room still. And I'm like, 2.5 years later, and this like sophomore in high school keeps his arsenic project. Yeah, that was a pretty good unit. So I felt pretty good about that. Sort of made me feel better about having to come and talk in front of all of you if he liked it that much. So that's my project, and I had to reference a bunch of images because I stole them from like all over the internet to get pictures of Patten Stream and what else. So anyway, that's all I have.